Ward to the end zone. Spectacular.
Ward puts her air on.
He's got it. He's out of bounds.
It doesn't get any more beautiful.
Tighten up, Chad.
Than this throw.
Tighten up, Chad.
Tighten up.
Let's get it, Chad. Tighten up, Chad. Stop playing, Chad. Tighten up, man.
What's up, everyone? Justin Graver here for the Music City Audible channel, MCA Live, an emergency edition. The Tennessee Titans have fired head coach Brian Callahan. I am going to sit here for a second and just wait for some people to join the stream and talk about Brian Callahan no longer being the head coach of the Titans. I'm seeing 0 people in the stream right now, so just gonna double check to make sure this is working at the moment. Is anyone watching? Let me know if you're watching by leaving a comment live. It's about time, says Memphis Otero. I was not exactly expecting this, I gotta be honest. Thank you, Chris, for letting me know you're watching. I guess it's just an issue with my streamer here telling me I have 0 live viewers. It looks like I do have some live viewers, so let's get into this. Noah hadn't seen any of the news until 60 seconds ago and hopped on this stream. Yes, what did the organization say? Perfect tee up, Noah, because the first thing I wanted to do was read the statement put out by the Titans by Chad Brinker. Here it is. I'm just going to read it verbatim. Statement from President of Football Operations Chad Brinker. After extended conversations with our owner and general manager, we met with Brian Callahan this morning, Monday morning, to tell him we are making a change at head coach. These decisions are never easy, and they become more difficult when they involve people of great character. We are grateful for Brian's investment in the Titans and Tennessee community during his tenure as head coach. We thank him and his family for being exemplary ambassadors of the Tennessee Titans. While we are committed to a patient and strategic plan to build a sustainable winning football program, we have not demonstrated sufficient growth. Our players, fans, and community deserve a football team that achieves a standard we are not currently meeting, and we are committed to making the hard decisions necessary to reach and maintain that standard. Now, I quickly want to start this by talking about Brian Callahan, the human person. It's never good as a fan base or whatever, as a group of people, to celebrate somebody losing their job. And it's not just Callahan that loses his job. You know, he's fired now. I imagine Nick Holtz will probably follow. I'm not 100% sure if that's going to happen. I would imagine Bill Callahan is probably going to leave as well. They haven't named an interim head coach yet. But at the end of this season, a lot of people are going to lose their jobs. They're going to have to uproot their families. There's a human element here. I just want to acknowledge it. I'm not saying the Titans shouldn't have done this. They needed to do this. Absolutely, this was the right move. But you just have to acknowledge and feel for all those people that are going to have to uproot their families, look for a new job. Now, on the flip side of that, there's this thing called a buyout where you get paid the full amount of money of your contract. So it's not like these guys are hurting. They're going to be making a lot of money to do nothing now. For this Titans team, at least until they sign a deal with a new team where they get, a new paycheck that offsets what they'd be getting from the Titans. So, just wanted to quickly acknowledge the human element there. It sucks as a person. And for Brian Callahan's part, he is a nice, good human being. I truly believe that. I really enjoyed his press conferences. In fact, every time I was most frustrated with him, I felt that he spoke in a way that reassured me that the Titans were on the right track. So it's not like, it's kind of bittersweet because I feel like Callahan was really open and honest with the media. Obviously, guys in our market like Easton Freeze had good relationships with Callahan, that he would leak out good info through Easton, things he wanted to get out, but things that we don't get from every head coach. And so I just want to acknowledge the end of that era, or as some Titans fans would call it, the end of an error. But I also want to address that quickly too before I get to your chat comments here. The Titans' process to hire Brian Callahan. There's been a lot of sort of revisionist history being done, I've seen on the timeline, the Twitter timeline the last few weeks. Brian Callahan was a super high caliber coaching candidate, okay? The Titans have done some poor process hirings in the past, and I'm not sure Brian Callahan's process was that good, to be honest, but the fact of the matter is Callahan was highly sought after, and I believe it was the Carolina Panthers, if I'm not mistaken, maybe not. There was another team that was planning to bring Callahan in for the final interview where it was expected that he would probably be offered the job from them as well. And the Titans swooped in and offered the job to Callahan before that other team could talk to him a last time. So they made the right move going out and getting Callahan. I don't think there's anything wrong with the process. It's just the crapshoot. It's like the draft. Hiring a head coach is like drafting a quarterback. You never really know what you're going to get from a first-time head coach. You don't know. I mean, there's countless examples of guys who excelled at the highest level as a coordinator, and then when they were put in the head coaching chair, they just didn't understand all of their responsibilities or what it takes to get a team to play together and play on the details. I want to get, okay, Alex, there is something wrong with the process because it involved firing Vrabel. I also think it's revisionist to look back and say the Titans shouldn't have fired Vrabel. Maybe they shouldn't have, and maybe he'll prove that they shouldn't have in New England this year or over the next few years. But the Titans under Vrabel had gone like 6-18 in their last 24 games when they fired him. They were a non-winning, non-competitive unit. It's very possible that his message had grown stale in that locker room after 6 years, that he wasn't the guy anymore. Just because they hired the wrong guy in Brian Callahan doesn't necessarily mean they made the wrong move. They made the wrong move by firing Mike Vrabel as well. Now, I do think Vrabel would have this current Titans team playing a little more competitive. I'm scared to play Vrabel from a game plan standpoint next week. But I don't think necessarily this indicates that it was the wrong decision to fire Vrabel. And again, Alex, yes, he was a really highly sought after candidate. He was thought of as a great quarterback guru, brilliant mind head coach. And obviously it didn't play out that way. And I never once saw anything brilliant about his offensive designs in Tennessee. I saw a lot of stuff that you see run all over the league. The creativity was near zero. So I understand that his actual performance did not live up to that hype. But we can't pretend that the Titans made some big error that another franchise was not about to make. Okay, somebody was going to make this error. And that's just sort of the crapshoot of hiring a new head coach. You don't know what you don't know, as Justin Melo has said. Sorry, I'm going to scroll up a little bit and read some of these comments. No interim announcement makes me think an outsider could be possible. I would be shocked. I mean, I might be mistaken here, but I feel like the only time that I can remember that an outsider was brought in was when the Colts hired Jeff Saturday off the ESPN set, and that was a complete and total disaster. I don't think the Titans are going to go outside for this. You want to give whoever you bring in next year the best chance to succeed. And trying to have them come in and run a different head coach's system midway through the season with little time to prepare or make real changes is not setting anyone up to succeed. I would guess the interim head coach is going to be Bones Fossil or Mike McCoy. I think there's arguments to be made for both. I wish I had this info now. Has it come out yet? It hasn't come out yet. I'm watching the Twitter timeline to see. Diana Rossini just tweeted, coaches are in the Titans facility, including Brian Callahan and his father, Bill, the team's offensive line coach. Players are not in today after Tennessee's loss in Las Vegas Sunday, which is interesting. And Pro Football Talk, Mike Florio, also tweeted, the Titans haven't named an interim coach. Internal options include Mike McCoy, or they could go outside the building for someone like Mike McCarthy or Eddie George. So I guess Florio thinks it's at least somewhat likely or possible that the Titans could go after someone like Mike McCarthy. We trade for Joe Flacco to be the interim coach. Now, wouldn't that be something? The players all dissing the last week of practice was the last straw, says Iron Grids TV. I think there's something to that. I think when Jeffrey Simmons comes out and says, we had a terrible week of practice, we were flat, and then Cam Ward backs that up at the podium, I think that that's certainly a possible final straw. I also think the final straw was exactly what Chad Brinker put in his statement, that they weren't seeing the improvement. I mean, it was one step forward, 12 steps back. One step forward, 50 steps back. Like, there was no forward progress, to use a football term, with this team. And I think the final straw was getting blown out by a bad Raiders team and looking completely unprepared. I don't know that it was necessarily just because the players said it was a bad week of practice. But something else to note, just to talk further about how poor of a position the Titans have been put in, the play action numbers this week were pathetic. They hardly ran any play action. after talking about how it was a thing that they did really well. Cam Ward, 5 of 5, 1 touchdown, sacked 1 time, had his fastest time to throw average of any type of play concept, a 127.1 passer rating on play action plays. This is courtesy of Zach Lyons via PFF. They only called 6 play action passes the entire game on Sunday, 13.6% of their dropbacks. I mean, you got to do more than that. RPO plays per week, another stat courtesy of Zach Lyons. In week 1, they ran 4 RPOs. In week 2, they ran 4 RPOs. In week 3, they ran 12 RPOs. In week 4, they ran 3 RPOs, and it was between weeks 4 and 5 where the media started asking questions about the RPO stuff. Ward says they help him see the field better. Callahan says it's tough to run them because defenses are prepared to stop them. In week 5 and 6 combined, they ran 1 RPO play. Something Cam Ward was, maybe the best RPO quarterback in college football last year. They ran 1 RPO play in the last 2 weeks combined. It's crazy. I have gotten way behind on reading and responding to your comments. I'd like to get to more of you. What a day. There's peace in the Middle East and Callahan is gone. Yes, the Callahan quote, I have absolutely zero issue with my play calling. I think what he said was, I'm not disappointed at all in my play calling. Maybe you're right. I'm not 100% sure anymore. Yeah, screens to lock it. Talked about this on the stream yesterday. What do you, talk about putting players in a poor position to succeed. Again, this team just didn't coach up the details. I am also sad that Justin Melo could not be here. I'll give you guys a little peek behind the curtain here. Because, this is a natural thing, but as the team struggles to win games or even field a competitive, fun product, at least if they were the Cowboys, where the offense was really fun and the defense was terrible, at least they'd be a fun team to watch. This team is torture to watch. So Justin and I have been talking behind the scenes a little bit as our numbers go down each week. Team is terrible. You guys, I can't blame you, are not as interested in people like me who talk about the team, and people like me and Justin. So we've been joking for a bit that our best episode this season is going to be emergency reaction, Brian Callahan fired. And so it is very sad to be doing this as a solo pod with Justin out. I wish he was here to share his thoughts, but he'll be back. He'll be back soon, and we'll talk to him about it then. Bo Hardigree is worse than Callahan at calling plays. I hope they let someone else do it. It's tough to know because when Bo Hardigree took over from Josh McDaniels on that Raiders team when he was named offensive coordinator, he changed a lot philosophically about what that offense was doing. When he took over calling plays from Brian Callahan, the philosophy behind the offense doesn't appear to have changed even a little bit. Not one modicum of real change, philosophically speaking. So I'm curious to see if Hardigree retains play calling duties now that this move has been made, what the offense looks like under him. Because things that he did the things that saw massive increases when he was the Raiders interim offensive coordinator were percent of play action, percent of plays with motion at the snap, RPOs. All of those shot through the roof when he was named the interim head coach or the interim play caller, offensive coordinator in Las Vegas. I'm hoping something like that happens. Let's see what you guys are saying. Why directly say you plan to incorporate more of what is working and what your QB likes and then do the opposite? What was going on? This is a great question. I don't think we'll ever have a real answer to this question. My best guess is when he's in a office with film on in front of his computer and no pressure and no clock ticking down and no bunch of people waiting on what he's going to say or do, I think it's a lot easier to sit back in those situations and say, we really need to do more of this. We really need to do more of these things that are working, this, and this, whatever. Let's put that in the game plan. And then you get into the game. It's sort of like what we talk about with players and their technique. Like once the bullets start really flying, you fall back on your habits. It's hard for you to really hone in on new techniques that you're just starting to master. Think about a young player in that kind of situation. I think the same is true with Brian Callahan. Like he would love to do those things that he said he would do. But when you're in the heat of the moment of a real game and the live bullets are flying, you go back to, you say, we wanted to get to more of this, but the game situation hasn't set us up to do it. So we're going to keep doing this other thing that's not working as well, but that we believe we can find success with. I don't know. I think that that's just sort of part of being in over your head as a head coach is that you do know, like theoretically, what would be better. But once you're in that moment, you go back to your habits and your tendencies. Cam Ward having 3 play callers half a season into his career. We'll see. It might be 2. It might stay Hardigree. But even if it does, it would be a 3rd play caller next season, most likely. Let me see what else you guys are saying here. McCoy should be head coach and implement his system would fit well with Ward. I kind of agree that McCoy would make the best choice. And I think the delay in naming the interim might be that they're interviewing these guys. Does anyone want to do it, first of all? Does anyone who thinks they can do it best? Oh, we have multiple people that think they can do it. Tell us why you'd be the better choice in this situation. I think that could be part of what the delay is. But I like Mike McCoy as a candidate because for what we talked about recently is that nobody has to change their role, really. Mike McCoy, I don't know what he does necessarily as a senior offensive assistant, but it's not necessarily, I would expect, a hands-on, day-to-day with the players, specific tasks that he's responsible for. I think that if you put Mike McCoy in the head coach chair, everyone else can retain their roles. And maybe it depends on who else is been shown the door. I don't know if Nick Holtz is still employed. Nobody's announced that he's not. I don't know if Bill Callahan is going to stay employed or if he's just going to quit, maybe. We'll see what happens with those two guys. But with Mike McCoy, at least, John Bones Fossil can remain the special teams coordinator and solely focus on what has been the best unit the Titans field every week. Denard Wilson, same thing. So that's why I think that Mike McCoy would be a good choice. But I could also see the argument for Bones Fossil. His unit has been the best unit on the team. Maybe we want that to carry over to the rest of the group. There's a lot of comments. You guys are amazing. I love all the comments, but forgive me if I don't get to all of them. F it, John Gruden, says Lauren. Yeah, John Gruden would be funny. I don't know if he's necessarily... I'm not against John Gruden, but I'm not saying he's going to be good for sure. Justin Stanley from the Chargers. I think you're thinking of Brandon Staley, and the person who you actually mean is Jesse Minter, unless there's a Justin Stanley out there that I'm not aware of. Remember the last time we were this shit? Tommy Smith gave up control to Amy Adams Strunk. She's now outstayed her welcome. Time for her brother. Well, I don't know about that. I mean, is Kenneth Adams going to do any better job? He's lived the same life essentially around football that she has. Do you think they bring in McCarthy on an interim basis because they do not have to satisfy the Rooney Rule until after the season? It's an interesting thought. I don't know. No, Josh McDaniels is not getting another shot as a head coach. Wilson would make a great head coach. Maybe. It's the same exact principle as Brian Callahan. We don't know that he'd make a good head coach. I mean, there's a chance. There's also a chance he's just as bad. I mean, he's watched Brian Callahan for the last, 24 games? That would be pretty funny if Bill Callahan was named the interim head coach, but I don't think that is going to happen. Yes, Titans officially canceled their 2:30 presser. What's interesting about that is there was a breadcrumb this morning that this firing could be coming down the pike. Usually the media gets an email the night before about okay, this is a joke from Nick Lombardi. Sorry, I stopped mid-sentence there. I saw Nick Lombardi breaking Amy Adams Strunk names Burke Niall interim head coach. Not funny, Nick. Not funny. Not a real thing. Yeah, they usually send out an email the night before letting you know what time the Monday presser is going to be. And that email never got sent last night. So this decision has been in the works for, at least 14, 15 hours or so. Yes. Ben in Nashville says exactly the way I feel. You got to find someone who can just right the ship. Trying the young up-and-comer is for teams with more pieces. Totally agree. It's Mike Mularkey all over again. And Mike Mularkey, obviously, at the end of his time here, was not well received, or I don't think Titans fans were very fond of him by that point. But one thing you can say about Mike Mularkey is he took a basement-dwelling team that was in the sewers of the NFL and lifted them out of that muck, turned them into a playoff team, rebuilt the culture from the ground up after they had just drafted a rookie quarterback and fired the head coach, middle of that season. That was a similar situation where the Titans are in now. They need somebody that has been a head coach before, that knows what it takes, that can come in here and instill a winning culture that can lift them out of the basement of the NFL, get them back to competitive. And if that guy can't take you all the way, at least you aren't, I think it's a lot harder to go from pretty good and competitive to great, true Super Bowl contender than it is to go from we absolutely suck to a more competitive level. So get somebody that can bring you to that competitive level. Give him a few years to figure out if he can make it all the way. If he can, great. You found your head coach. If he can't, then you make a change after he has time to rebuild the culture, and then you look for your, basically, this is a reference that gets used a lot, but Mark Jackson to Steve Kerr in the NBA, right? Mark Jackson brought the Warriors into competitive territory, and then he couldn't get them over the hump. So Steve Kerr comes in, and they win, what, 3 championships? This is not an NBA podcast. But you get the idea. That's what you need. That's what you're looking for. And that's why I'm such a huge proponent of Mike McCarthy. Jesse Minter looks like a great head coaching candidate. But what if Jesse Minter is a similar Peter Principle type of guy as Brian Callahan? Now, Jesse Minter's in a different spot because he's basically in charge of that defense. He calls plays, for one. So maybe he has a better track record. But I'm nervous about anyone like that. Joe Brady, same boat. Nervous about anyone like that because the Titans don't need to swing for the absolute fences and get the next Sean McVay. I mean, that'd be amazing if they could, but you don't know that who's going to be that. It's impossible to know until they step into the role. That's why I think someone like Mike McCarthy, or if the Ravens keep losing and John Harbaugh, if they decide, you know what, John Harbaugh, you gave us a ton of great years, but the message has just grown stale. It's like my preseason take with Mike Tomlin, although the Steelers are now at 4-1, don't look like they're going to be firing Mike Tomlin anytime soon. If the Ravens decide that John Harbaugh's run his course there and he can't get them over the hump, John Harbaugh would be an incredible get here in Nashville. Let's keep reading. Urban Meyer, absolutely not. This is a joke, obviously. Imagine they hire Mike McDaniel. Hey, if the next head coach wants to bring Mike McDaniel in to be his offensive coordinator, or at least his run game coordinator, 100% in on that. Mike McDaniel as a head coach? I don't think so. Look, Mike McDaniel had a few good years, but his teams lack toughness, and I certainly believe that locker room does not have a winning culture. Maybe you can argue that players like Jeffrey Simmons and Cam Ward can bring that winning culture, but those guys are in the locker room right now, and this team doesn't have a winning culture. I disagree with firing Chad Brinker and Mike Borgonzi. I mean, these guys have only had real power for this year. You can say Chad Brinker was there during the Rand Carthon era, and there's a lot of reports that he was the one behind the Snead trade and blah, 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 but I don't believe... I mean, Chad Brinker is a draft and develop guy first. Maybe it was mandated to him that he needs to go negotiate for this Snead trade. If that even is that's a report. We don't know factually or unfactually if that's true. The only thing we know for sure these two guys have been in charge of was the draft and free agency period this past year. And they, I would say, so far have knocked it out of the park. I mean, could they have made it? Everyone's going to miss on some player at some point. I think they've done a pretty good job so far, and I believe in the philosophy, the draft and develop philosophy. So I think it's way too early to talk about firing Chad and Mike. They made the move. Chad Brinker, the statement wasn't from Amy Adams Strunk. Chad Brinker made the move to fire Brian Callahan. You could argue that their biggest mistake was retaining Brian Callahan, but you can understand the argument for why they would have done so. Bringing in a new quarterback, you want to try to create some level of consistency. Obviously, that was a mistake. Appreciate you, JM, heed the call listener, hedonist out there. I am happy for me too. Thank you for tuning in, JM. Mike Munchak. I mean, if they could get him back as O-line coach. The Titans need stability and an offensive-minded head coach with experience. Exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. This guy, Debata, wants Jesse Minter, Ruben Bain, Carnell Tate, a pass rusher named Phillips from Miami. Oh, Jalen Phillips from Miami in free agency. Hey, it's not a bad plan. I'm not saying Jesse Minter can't be a good head coach. It's a risk that I don't know if it's worth taking with a rookie who's going to be a second-year quarterback who was your number one overall pick. Yeah, this is a huge mistake by the Titans organization here. Slimely little dude. Why did we let Matt LaFleur walk out the building? Yeah, when they hired Mike Vrabel, imagine if they'd hired Matt LaFleur, where this franchise would be. There's no word yet, Matthew, on whether or not Bill Callahan has been fired. The only news we have right now at this time is that Brian Callahan has been fired. That was in a statement from the team. If you're just tuning in late to the stream, thanks for joining us. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, like the video, drop a comment below after the stream ends, a real comment. Get in the chat. I'm trying to answer as many chat questions as I can. Memphis Otero still likes the idea of Brian Flores. Yeah, Brian Flores, definitely an interesting one. Obviously, his stint as a head coach was mired in some kind of crazy ownership. I don't know what happened. Controversy, I guess. I've also heard stuff from people who know Flores in the league, who know players that have played for him, that say he's really hard to play for. And it wasn't just the Tua Tagovailoa and him having, some whatever friction. It was that he's not necessarily the easiest guy to play for as a head coach. Maybe he learned from that. Maybe he's watching Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota and learning. But yeah, thank you, Logan, for completely agreeing with me on the malarkey comparison. The skills of turning a horrible team into a competent team and a competent team to a great team aren't necessarily overlapping skills. Like every once in a while, you find a Sean McVay who turned the Rams from a number one. Well, they weren't really the number one overall pick team. They traded for the number one pick, but they were really bad in Fisher's last year. He turned them into a Super Bowl champion. Dan Campbell took the Lions out of the complete basement and has made them a Super Bowl contender, although they haven't actually gotten all the way there yet. But yeah, different coaches are often better in different situations. Absolutely. We're going to miss out on the next McVay with that mindset. We're the Titans. We have nothing to lose. We should definitely keep rolling the dice on new guys. See, I just disagree. Like, yeah, you're going to miss out on the next McVay right now, but in 4 years, if you haven't made it over the hump with your retread, with your, I don't know if it's Mike McCarthy or John Harbaugh or Brian Flores, if I'm talking, probably the top retread candidates there. If that guy hasn't gotten you over the hump in 4 or 5 years, or at least close to it, AFC championship level contention, then you can start looking for your next Sean McVay because you are more confident in the construction of your team and your roster and the culture that's already established there. And you look for somebody who can bring you maybe more of a schematic advantage versus the leader of men side. And maybe that head coach can do that by finding an offensive coordinator. Now, you obviously risk losing them the way the Lions lost Ben Johnson, the way the Titans lost Matt LaFleur. But Gruden is not, is Gruden suing the NFL? I think him and Brian Flores might both be wrapped up in lawsuits towards the NFL. I'm not 100% sure. Thank you, Robert, a hedonist, heed the call listener coming in for the bonus gravy on Canadian Thanksgiving. Another reason we really miss Justin Melo. It's Canadian Thanksgiving. He can't be here to be grateful for this. It's Mike McCarthy or bust in the offseason with McCoy as an interim. I like that plan. Aaron Glenn, the next coach, to be fired. Very possible, but it could also easily be Mike McDaniel. Although they showed some fight at the end of that game. They still lost, right? At home, and again. Idea for your next pod. Track record for first-time head coaches that haven't called plays before. Jacob, I like the idea. I don't know if I want to put the effort into doing the research there. One thing I have put the effort into doing research on is what happens to rookie quarterbacks whose head coaches get fired during or following their rookie season, so that they have a new head coach going into their second year. And the history actually tells us that it's not a death sentence for a rookie quarterback to lose their head coach in their rookie year. I don't have the research in front of me now. I'm planning to do a longer video on that at some point, but the long and short of it is kind of depends on the quarterback. Really. I got to get out of here soon. I got to go do a little bit of work, and then I'm going to record a real podcast with James Foster soon. But I appreciate all you guys tuning in. Let's see if I can get to a few more chats before that. This is just another season in limbo. Absolutely. And that was the mistake of leaving Callahan in charge, was that this would be the case. To Iron Grid's TV's point, everyone knew Callahan wasn't it. I was willing to give him another year because I thought there was more to him, but obviously not. PK and Easton both reporting separately the Titans did not have a plan for interim head coach. That sounds like the Titans. Matt Nagy, we need the KC offense. I mean, I can see this being a legit possibility because of the obvious connection to Borgonzi, but I'm not saying I don't know that I'd be thrilled with this. I mean, Matt Nagy was a coach of the year in Chicago, won 12 games, went to the playoffs, and his teams got worse every year after that. That's not necessarily the trajectory you want to see. So again, it's just somebody that scares me. Eddie George is the perfect interim. He'll go winless. We can rule him out and make a good hire in January. I mean, there's some argument to be made that's not a bad plan. Yes, Mike McCarthy has been mentioned many times, New Jersey Titans fan. He's my number one choice. Look, I grew up in Dallas. I currently live in Dallas. I saw the Mike McCarthy Dallas era. Jerry Jones has a lot of control over what the head coach of his team is allowed to do. And, some guys take more control. Like when Bill Parcells was the coach, he told Jerry to get the F out of his way. Other guys like Jason Garrett were almost puppets for what Jerry wanted. I don't know where that balance falls with Mike McCarthy, but I know that he won a Super Bowl in Green Bay with a quarterback that had to sort of be rebuilt in Aaron Rodgers. Coming out of college, his mechanics were all kinds of messed up, but he had it up here. And I'm not saying Cam Ward's mechanics are all kinds of messed up, but he could stand to improve elements of his mechanics. And he does have the cerebral ability to play in this league. I think Mike McCarthy would be a great pairing for Cam Ward. I think that's the kind of coach you want Cam Ward to be coached by, a true veteran who knows what it looks like to raise a quarterback into a superstar. Yeah, I just talked about Matt Nagy. I don't know. Sorry if I'm way behind on getting to these comments and I'm repeating things after I've already said them, but do you think they fired Callie before the Patriots game to save future embarrassment? I think this is maybe kind of a joke, but also kind of how I actually feel. I think the Titans are looking for the interim head coach bump this week against Mike Vrabel because it's the only game on the schedule that Amy truly cares about winning. So she's looking for every advantage. If they know they're going to fire Callahan, when's the best time to use that bump that almost always comes with firing a head coach, at least for 1 week? I mean, let's use it before we play Mike Vrabel. And I think I'm going to close the Jacob loves the idea of Joe Brady, but certainly loves the certainty of Mike McCarthy. That's how I feel. Arthur Smith would be interesting. I mean, he flamed out in Atlanta for a reason, but I also thought those teams were more competitive than maybe the talent said they should have been. And he can coordinate a good offense and help out a quarterback, which is the most important thing for this team. But basically, this is the path the Titans need to be on. They need to get a head coach in here that can raise Cam Ward's level, and develop him and make him a bona fide star, high-level starter in the league. Because they're not going anywhere long-term unless they have that piece. So they need somebody in the building that can do that. And once Cam Ward reaches that point to where he doesn't need, 2 or 3 years down the line, he doesn't need that coaching to get him there anymore. He just needs coaches to keep him there. That's when you either look to make a change or go for that next Sean McVay or whatever. But first and foremost, the most important thing to making the Titans a competitive football team is getting a coach that can get high-level play out of Cam Ward. Okay? I did want to go through really quickly. Our buddy Superhorn put out a thread not too long ago when, the talk of firing Callahan really started to heat up for the first time. And Justin and I discussed this a few weeks back on the podcast, but this is his thread. Since 2000, 36 teams have changed head coaches during the season. 25 of those 36 teams improved their win percentage after firing the head coach. 70% almost. 10 teams regressed and had a worse winning percentage under the interim coach, and 1 team had the same winning percentage under the interim head coach as the fired head coach. But the average win percentage of these 36 teams before firing their head coach, 26%, 26.9% win percentage. After firing the head coach, average win percentage for all these teams, 39.2%. Almost 13% increase in win percentage from firing your head coach. So to answer the question, can this actually help the Titans this season? Yes. History tells us more often than not, yes. So I think this was the right move at the right time. We're going to have a lot more time to talk about this. Again, I'm going to have James Foster on the show later today. So actually, I'm expecting to record with him in about 10 minutes. So I really appreciate it. Sorry I couldn't get to more chats. Appreciate you guys jumping in here. I like doing this. I mean, I miss Justin Melo a lot, but I want him to be here, and we can both do this kind of episode where I come in with not a real plan. I just want to respond and react to you guys in the chat. It's how I did last night's stream after the game. Yes, I agree, Brent. With our luck, we will be one of the regressing teams, but that's not necessarily bad luck. I mean, you want to see this team win. You want to see Cam Ward grow and figure out what it takes to win a game on a weekly basis and be better at that. But you also want to put talent, infuse talent into this team, and a top pick type of player like Ruben Bain or the other big edge rusher? Forgot his name. I haven't really dove into draft stuff yet per se. But yeah, you want to get a high draft pick also, because that's how teams really make fast turnarounds, is hitting on high draft picks and getting true blue chip talent on the team. We want to see Cam improve while maintaining draft position. Exactly, Will. This season is already a wash. Yeah, you're not going anywhere at 1-5. I mean, you weren't going anywhere anyway. Has a team ever hired a coach mid-season before versus rolling with an interim? Well, I don't know if you can even technically not call them an interim, because you have to go through a whole process. The NFL's Rooney Rule process and stuff to hire a head coach. So to hire an interim head coach, you don't have to do that. So I don't think that you can call it like the head coach by doing a midseason hiring like that, unless you go through the Rooney Rule full interview process, which a team would never do because you're worried about too many things during the week. But yes, the Colts did hire Jeff Saturday in the middle of the season, straight off the ESPN set. Trade Arden Key and Tony Pollard and SJD. Yeah, anyone you can trade and get picks back for, trade them. Ridley, sure, trade them all. Everyone but Jeffrey Simmons, I say you should trade. All right, guys, that'll do it. I really appreciate you all tuning in again. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. You're probably subscribed if you tuned in, but subscribe to the channel anyway, even if you don't plan to watch me again. Just help me out. I gave you 34 minutes of content, 35 minutes of content. You can give me a subscribe button, right? It's not that hard. Like the video and stay after. As soon as I end the stream, stay after and drop a comment below so that this thing goes wide, far and wide. Send the link to a friend. You are welcome, Cincinnati Chili. That's funny. Good name. Yeah, Josh McDaniels is not going to get hired as a head coach again. And that's a huge plus for Vrabel in New England. All right, enough chit-chat from me. Until next time, y'all stay safe out there. Oh, shout out to Sinkers Beverages, real quick. Sinkers Beverages sponsors the channel. We really appreciate them. Head to Sinkers Beverages. Join the in crowd. All right, until later today with James Foster. Y'all stay safe out there and tighten up.
A Broadway sports media production.